This was the week where Israel was allegedly about to sign a ceasefire deal. But then on Friday, I guess it was like, ooh, or we could kill the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, inside of Beirut. And so they did that instead. And that is added to a death toll in Lebanon of over 1,000 people that Israel has killed, again, with the pager explosions and then with the targeted bombings. And normally that was in the south. On Friday, that struck in the heart of Beirut. 77,000 have fled. And just as a few hours ago, Israel began a ground invasion into Lebanon that they say is going to be limited. But ignore all that because Iran fired rockets at Israel. Just this morning, about 200 rockets were fired from Iran into Tel Aviv, and no one was hurt, it seems. No one was killed. And the United States, according to the Pentagon, was pivotal in that they actually shot down a number of those rockets. Again, this is in addition to, the Iron Dome and whatnot, but it seems like that, no, the United States and its, I believe, destroyers were able to shoot down some of those ballistic missiles. They were not drones, and they did not supposedly have prior warning. Iran saying they warned the United States. The United States is saying were not warned. So that is where we are at. Jamie, who could have seen this coming is what I want to ask.
I mean, there's so many unreliable narrators in the room. It's just like where to begin. Yeah, it's been a really difficult, last couple of days, just even being able to keep up with all of the multiple narratives being presented by Israel, and then of course immediately having to dismiss them. But seeing what the narrative has been going in, it feels expectedly opaque and clearly untrue. But it truly never becomes less blood boiling to hear it tried, and then also supported by the US, like you were showing earlier.
Yeah, no, so the US is basically saying they are meeting with their counterparts in Israel, and they're sort of weighing the options for a retaliatory or retaliatory strike, because it depends on when you started the clock on this. But here's CNN reporting from Tel Aviv. This is really interesting because one of the targets of Iran's missiles was supposedly Mossad and the Mossad headquarters. So this is a journalist just explaining where the Mossad headquarters is.
The U.S. intel view that among the targets were Israeli airfields, but also, and this is crucial, the headquarters of Mossad, the International Intelligence Service of Israel, which is inside Tel Aviv. It's in the northern part of Tel Aviv, but it's in the city. It's in a densely populated area. And of course, the concern is if you're firing, even though Iran might consider that a military target, it is in a densely populated city with civilians around it. And that's just one more layer of escalation.
Yes, another layer of escalation. Jamie, consider the civilians in the densely populated area around the target.
Right. I mean, it's pretty rich to hear it presented that way after the last, again, where do you want to start the clock there? We're obviously, no one wants civilians to be hurt anywhere, but specifically with regards to Israel, to say that out of context of where Israel's been at for, again, set the clock is pretty absurd.
Gaza, before the genocide began, was known as the most densely populated place on earth. And yet it has been bombed with 2,000-pound missiles. In fact, the missile that took out Hassan Nasrallah wasn't targeted. It was, apparently reports are that was one of the 2,000-pound US-made missiles that, leveled an apartment building, and he happened to be in it. So yes, children have been killed. Yes, civilians have been killed. But it's just incredible to me that it's like, oh, suddenly the media really cares about densely populated areas surrounding military targets or whatever targets. And you're just like, yeah, you could almost say that Israel is using human shields for its Mossad operations. But again, we would never frame it like that. Because one side is the terrorist and one side, because they don't have a literal state. It's just very funny, the chicken or the egg situation of whether, Palestinian resistance is terrorism or not, vis-a-vis the fact that they don't have a state.
That it's presented as just unquestionably, of course, this is a right, and if you feel any other way about it, then you are hateful, and you yourself are, in league with the terrorists. I don't know. I know that we've been seeing it at such an increased rate for the last year, but just the idea of like, which civilians do we care about? Who do we care about? Whose safety do we care about versus whose do we not, and will we go way out of our way to present as a potential threat, as I'm sure we will continue to see if this continues on the track it seems to be going on.
Well, absolutely. And we've looked at, the language is just kind of a cut and paste between Hamas and Hezbollah. And the history of Hezbollah is a lot more complicated. There is a lot more, there's been, back and forth. I shared a video on my YouTube channel, and everyone should check it out. AJ Plus is a great breakdown of the history of Hezbollah. But Israel did occupy southern Lebanon for 22 years. That ended in the year 2000. That was sort of seen as a victory by Hezbollah, but it was really a sort of a both. Israel also politically withdrew for their own reasons. And then in 2006, Israel invaded southern Lebanon again. Hezbollah held them at bay. So Hezbollah, because it's been the only defense for the people of Lebanon, has been lauded and supported. And Israel is trying to basically break apart that support, but in obviously the most ham-fisted, a murderous way possible that is never borne out in the history of conflict between these two actors. I want to go to Biden because you got to just wonder what this dude is thinking. Like, I've likened him to like Daenerys in season 7 of Game of Thrones, like just going scorched earth.
Oh, I thought you were just like bad writing at this point.
Yes, terrible.
Losing people right and left.
Your favorite characters have all resigned in shame.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. That's kind of what it is. But it's like, he is a lame duck president because he's not actually running again. He's been maligned in his mind. He's also a very committed Zionist, which truly translates into the mass murder of Palestinians, no matter what the cost, at the excuse of defending Israel, which they're still going with, by the way. This is still the
Democratic Party. Yeah, they're not wavering whatsoever publicly or policy-wise.
Here was Biden when he was asked right before the imminent invasion of Lebanon by Israel, again, the ground invasion.
Israel may be now launching a limited operation into Lebanon. Are you aware of that? Are you comfortable with their plans?
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now. Thank you.
Do you expect Iran to retaliate? And the hurricane, Mr.
And the hurricane.
Yeah, so many things to talk about. It is also just ridiculous hearing journalists have to present things to Biden as if it's like, have you heard about this?
Like, just making sure you have, because like you don't always register things.
Hard to say. I mean, I don't know. What do we even say to that? It's more just
more than you know. I mean, he's clearly offended by it. You're right to point that out, because he was offended. He's like, I know more than you know, you little whippersnapper. And,
probably say more.
Maybe. Exactly. And sort of like, I'm comfortable with them stopping. So you've been uncomfortable now for a year. Again, Jamie, remember the behind the scenes, we're getting this word, Biden fuming at Israel, Biden mad, Biden, gonna, one of these days when I get to be president, like I oughta, like
3.5 years ago, I'm really gonna give you what for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's just, again, it does feel like, what are we doing? Are we using sort of the appearance of weakness and idiocy as a cover for just more bloodshed of something you're really behind, which is, again, the expansion of this war, the continuation of bombing children while they're sleeping in makeshift tents? Like, is it that, or are you truly this bad at foreign policy? Like, are you really that bad?
I mean, I could not tell you. As this last year has played out, it really, we knew this, but just knowing that there is no line. You keep hearing of another development that you're like, surely this is the line, and then end up feeling naive days later because, of course, it's not the line. I don't think that the line even exists. And having this all unfold during an election season where not only is there no line, but the Democratic Party is kind of repeatedly reinforcing that while saying, well, and it's also really too bad about those hundreds of thousands of civilians that we could have prevented from dying. I don't know. I mean, I feel so discouraged because it's like that's just another sort of empty statement that indicates this isn't the line either.
Yeah, exactly. There is no line, and the media needs to be honest about that, it's whatever it takes, including like, I mean, it's just like, literally, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they're American citizens inside of Lebanon who are trying to evacuate. There still has been no plan to evacuate them. They're urging people to just get on commercial flights, which is like $8,000, $10,000 at a drop of a hat, and then go where. I mean, it's just it's presuming so many things. And again, like, what I'm getting, and it might be because there are Bush administration officials currently serving in the Biden administration, but I'm getting like Islamophobic, anti-Muslim Bush administration vibes of like, well, let's do it. It's time for war against the Browns.
Right. And I mean, and I've felt this way with American casualties as well. There's just a resistance of any individualism, like any individual story when it comes to who they don't support. They need to maintain this monolith mentality or things start to fall apart, even when it's people that they allegedly serve. And I mean, I think about, I saw yesterday, I think it was from Plestia Aliquad posting about how, she was covering Gaza in a war zone, went to Australia, was able to evacuate, and then began her master's studies in Lebanon. And now she is yet again in a war zone that is under attack from Israel, the second time in a fucking year. And it's, of course, there's not going to be any, attention drawn to stories like that. And
I had been wondering where Plestia had been, actually, because, obviously this is also the week where Bisan Wizad, I think her last name is, she won an Emmy with AJ Plus, where I used to work. And I'm so, so proud of her. But I was thinking about all these people that we came to know, like Plestia, and I'm glad she was able to evacuate. But that is wild. Like, no, there will be no normalcy for the region. And before we leave this topic, I did want to play a video because obviously the UN General Assembly was last week, and the Jordanian foreign minister spoke and basically said, look, there are partners for peace in the region. Netanyahu came in front of this body and claimed that they're surrounded by enemies. You are not surrounded by enemies. You're surrounded by people who want peace, but that peace comes with a certain amount of stipulation. That peace comes with real negotiation. And this, I thought, was
Prime Minister came here today and said that Israel is surrounded by those who want to destroy it, an enemy. We're here, members of a Muslim Arab committee mandated by 57 Arab and Muslim countries. And I can tell you here, very unequivocally, all of us are willing to, right now, guarantee the security of Israel in the context of Israel ending the occupation and allowing for the emergence of a Palestinian state, independent state, along the efforts that we all agree. He is creating that danger because he simply does not want the two-state solution. And if he does not want the two-state solution, can you ask the Israeli officials, what is their end game? Other than just wars and wars and wars. I'm telling you, all of us in the Arab world here, we want a peace in which Israel lives in peace and security, accepted, normalized with all Arab countries in the context of ending the occupation, withdrawing from Arab territory, allowing for the emergence of an independent, sovereign Palestinian state on June 4, 1967, lines with occupied Jerusalem as capital. That is our narrative. That is, and we will guarantee Israel's security in that context. Can you ask Israelis what's their narrative other than I'm going to continue to go to war, I'm going to kill this and kill that and destroy this and this that? The amount of damage that Israeli government has done, 30 years of efforts to convince people that peace is possible, this Israeli government killed it. The amount of dehumanization, hatred, bitterness, will take generations to navigate through. So ultimately, the question is, we want peace, and we've laid out a plan for peace. Ask any Israeli official what is their plan for peace. You'll get nothing, because they're only thinking of the first step. We're going to go destroy Gaza, inflame the West Bank, destroy Lebanon, and after that, they have no plan.
This is amazing. So I just love his passion. I love how and dude clearly is like stepping into frame. Like there was a question by a journalist and he comes barreling in and he's like, let's get something straight. We are super prepared to live peacefully next to Israel, which a lot of people criticize, right? But
I was like, this is not a radical stance at all.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I saw this online. People were like, how dare you try to normalize relationships with Israel? Listen to what he's saying. It is when you stop occupying the West Bank, you remove the settlements, and you stop occupying Gaza. Like this is 1967 borders. That's what they entail. You create a Palestinian state. But of course, I mean, this is the thing, JB, like any Democrat who still says two-state solution, Kamala Harris is included in that, is just not serious.
Right. I mean, it's just, it's complete lip service. And it's like, I would love to see someone press her or any prominent Democrat. What do you mean by that? And sort of apply this same question that needs to be pressed to the Israeli government of what do you mean by that? What does peace look like? What are you actually doing?
What are you doing? Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise we will draw our conclusions, which is you're trying to kill as many Muslims as possible. Or it doesn't matter. Christians, Jews, doesn't matter. Obviously, hostages are still being held and at risk, and expand.
Right. But I don't think there is no answer to that question, and they know that. And so the easiest thing to do is to present that not remotely radical statement as radical.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do